I'm so glad you were able to join me, Amy.
Happy to be here.
Good. I'm going to share my screen. Just give me a moment. There we go. Hopefully you can see it.
Looks good.
Yeah, great. All right. This work actually came out of a lot of what I did through COVID. One of the things I struggled with particularly in my undergraduate class was they were facing so much stress during COVID that they were not able to stay focused on their own class or on their classwork. And so I had to find alternative ways to bring them in and engage them, even though they were experiencing, job loss and parents and grandparents that were passing away or getting COVID and needing extra support. So my goal today is to understand different types of simulations, different options for designing simulations. And I'm going to show you how I turned one of my class-based simulations into a long class, and then some results from that implementation. So first off, I'm kind of curious, how would you define simulations? You can unmic and open up. We have an hour together, so.
Interestingly, yesterday I had a call from some company that wanted to sell something to my university. And I asked, do you have simulations? And the guy asked me, what is a simulation? And I'm like, oh, how do I define that? So I did. I say, okay, it's an artificial scenario that looks real with actors where you can put yourself in a situation and you have to interact, or you can interact. Or you can interact in the situation or the context, an artificial context, I put it. But yes. I'm sure I wasn't the spot. I'm sure I left a lot out.
Well, actually, I think what you've done is described a very high-end simulation. So, and you did a great job. Yeah. Anyone else want to try?
I think she did a great job describing that. I was thinking along the same lines, where you have, you are, put in a certain role or position and able to kind of react to things. One of the other things I was thinking about is just having different alternatives, perhaps based on my reactions or my choices, right? So that was something I would add to that.
Yes. So you're very on target, but I think I'm glad we had this discussion, because I also had that perception that, well, a simulation needs to be pretty high end, using a lot of multimedia in order to get that that effect that we might be to get that interaction that we're looking for. So the question then comes, how do you do that when you're working in an environment that's very low tech? And then how do I build out these simulations? And then making sure that my students actually had access to the simulations. So so my next question for you is, what are you hoping to get out of this session? What were you thinking as you came in?
I thought, oh, maybe I'll see something better than immersion, which is what we use. and I can learn how, how people use simulations, how in different ways in which people use simulation, to see how I can use it differently.
Okay, that's a good goal. Anyone else?
I would add, I'm just always interested in learning about new engagement strategies. So I think that part of the title really attracted me.
You're right. It's like, how do we do that again in a low tech environment? Frequently, we don't have all the access we might want to some of the really nice products, or the time. I think that's another issue I ran into. Even if I did, how do I build in the time for that? So first off, I think we should kind of step back a little bit and think about there are different types of simulation. And procedural is one where the purpose is really just to teach someone a sequence of events. So you're going to enter a simulation, and then they're going to practice, like, how do I'm thinking like the similar of pilot simulation. So they have to go in, they have to do all of the tasks that they would do as they're beginning to fly the airplane, for example. And they do that in a simulator. So it's very procedural. You've got to do things in a specific order, and there's someone there who's making sure that you're doing that. Then there's the other type of simulation, which more incorporates more behavior and attitudes, and setting up a situation and seeing how people are going to respond to that situation. So I think it's important for us to be aware there's different types. Now, one of the things I found an advantage of using a simulation is that it motivates my students by putting them into a situation that they can relate to. And often we teach content that's unconnected. And if it's not connected, then why is it important for me to learn this particular skill? And because you're putting in a struggle, which I thought was interesting, our guest speaker today talked about the struggle, it generates interest in what in the class material. And if it's built out correctly, and it depends on how you build it out, it can actually encourage interaction in between the team members. The other thing is it increases transference because of the ability to put someone in a situation. Then they're able to remember that when they actually go out and implement that those skills that you've taught them. It also focuses on a higher level. So you're not learning facts and regurgitating facts. You're actually at the higher levels of application and demonstration and analyzing, and then evaluating the success of what you're doing. And most importantly, it really builds in collaboration. So it's not just interaction in between the team members, but really building a team spirit within the members of the class. All right, so what are your experiences with simulations? Have you engaged in any type of simulation?
I used to, because one of the programs, well, many programs now, but the first program that at Nova that adopted simulations, adopted immersion, and that's the program I was co-designing the whole program in educational leadership. I had to try it first, right? So we tried immersion, and I also try what's the one with the
the goggles?
Yes, Oracle, yeah.
Oracle, okay,
Oracle.
yeah, Oracle.
I tried that one. That was fun as to play. I don't know if you can use it. I don't know how you could use it in a learning situation or a simulation, but it may be interesting. But those were my experiences, and then the immersion is good. It has many limitations, but it puts the students in a situation, and then they reflect on the situation, and you have an actor behind that interacts with the students. So the actor really needs to know the content. And so you have to train the actors on the content first. And that's great. It's great to have someone real behind, but it's a limitation too in terms of how much they can learn.
Right. So basically what's happening to you in that situation, and if you're a faculty member, is you're training someone. I mean, there's just so much involved. And then doing the video, especially when you get to the 3D goggles, it sounds really great and I'm really super excited, but just the time to design just that little interaction that you're doing.
And those technologies are not cheap either.
They're not.
Yeah,
they are not.
They're not cheap. Yeah.
So I think you're going to like what I'm going to tell you. Because I'm going
Wonderful.
we're going to get it down to it's doable. So in a simulation, the kind of the components that really bring it together is that you're building out a storyline and you're providing a story for the students that helps them connect to the content. And then you're creating a pathway for that story in the allowing the branching of choices. And I'll share with you how I do that, letting them make those choices as they respond to the challenge without having to use a sophisticated branching program. But I think what is very important, particularly in a class situation, is you still need to provide them with the information they need to make the required decisions. And then also in a classroom situation, you want to have formative assessment to make sure they're gaining the knowledge that you want. So it doesn't become like a gaming situation where I'm just doing this for fun, but I'm doing this in the process of learning. And then finally, having a summative culminating type of activity for your simulation. And so again, making that focus more educational versus a gaming approach. All right, so when I planned mine, and I'll show you mine in just a few minutes, I was thinking about how can I build this simulation out so it covers the entire course. And I do think that takes a little more thought as you're building out your storyline. So, what kind of a setting is this going to occur in? What kind of people are they going to be interacting with? And then almost like in doing a backwards design is figuring out the task that they need. So I started off with my culminating activity and then determined what type of task that they would need to do in order to accomplish that culminating activity. And the other thing I do in my classes, I'm very procedural. So I like to set it up like, this is how you're going to turn it in. This is what it should look like. And what I found is if I do that, it allows the students to be creative in their responses to what I'm asking them to do. So instead of focusing their cognitive load on how does she want me to turn this in, I take that off the table so they can just focus on being creative. And as I was planning this, I also got to thinking about, well, what are my resources? How do I make sure that they have the resources they need to solve the challenges that I'm putting in front of them? And then how do I expect them to respond? So I pretty much do a class blueprint in which I figure out all of those components before I begin designing my simulations. So it's actually a lot of work that goes behind this, but it's doable. So multimedia simulations are a very common way of designing simulations. They are, however, very expensive. They're very time consuming. They typically require you to design branching, which means not only are you designing your original storyline, but you're having to design the storylines that are associated with the branching. So when you do that, you're actually developing maybe what would be instructional lesson 1 now becomes 3, 4, 5, or 6, just multiplying the amount of work that you're going to be doing. And because of that, it becomes prohibitive to do for online classes because it's just too much, too costly. So how do I do this in a less expensive way? So in my training experiences, I was part of the Civil Air Patrol, and they used a strategy that was developed by the military in doing their war games. So what those are called are tabletop. They're called tabletop simulations. And literally, if you're in person, these tabletop exercises are handled by index cards. So they would actually set up the story, and then the index cards would have the new challenges that are going to occur throughout the entire story of the simulation. And as the facilitators, what they would do is have these index cards ready to go. And then as they saw a group progressing, they would then hand out the new challenge. So this allows you to really design your challenges around objectives and outcomes. So each challenge has an objective or purpose that you might want to expect. And it also allows you to plan for that group interaction. How do I want them to interact within that group? And you can also design a scenario that is believable with prompts for discussion. And literally the scenario just unfolds one step at a time. You have any questions about simulations? Second Life is another place, but again, it's really tough to design in Second Life. I like that observation. All right, any questions so far? Okay. So how does this look like when you're designing a course? You're going to, you could actually use different scenarios for each lesson around the theme, but mine typically expand the whole entire course. And then each week I'm interjecting a new challenge to the students. And I also provide them a way of sharing their storyline or the results of the products they're creating through that simulation. And then again, having the resources for the students. And it's not that you're giving them the resources as much as allowing them to research and find those resources. And then my role is to really be a guidance to them. It really pushes me into the facilitation role. And I also designed all the rubrics before I launched the class. Every challenge has a rubric, and then the final product has a rubric. And I know there's a lot of concern about the new chat bot that can write papers, but I think if you're doing your classes this way, you don't have to worry about the chat box, because every paper, every group is going to have its own unique product, and it's going to look very unique when it comes to you. So just again, I used backwards design, focusing on what my final project should be, and then I begin to break them down, create those rubrics and checklists. With each step of this scenario, there's a challenge that needs to be solved, and then I determine the resources that are needed to respond it, and then making sure I really create that really solid rubric that's going to evaluate their knowledge. So I'm going to share with you some of the work I've done, so you can kind of see how it unfolds in a classroom. So can you see my canvas now? I want to make sure you're seeing the same thing I am.
Yes.
All right. So what I did, and this is a graduate class. This is a class I'd like for them to take at the end of their program, in which they're learning how to be instructional designers. In this class, when it's about program management, and so I really want them to understand how to apply program management to an instructional design situation. So as you can imagine, that can be really daunting. And it was a course that many people didn't like. They weren't really into management, and they just saw this as not a course that was of value to them. So I decided that this would be the perfect place to integrate a simulation. So what the simulation is they are designing training for teachers at a local school district, since many of our students are teachers, I thought this would be a great way for them to connect to the ideas of instructional design and also to management and how it would apply in an education setting, not just in a business setting. And the person who's in charge of the instructional design project experiences all kinds of interesting challenges as she tries to bring the project to the end. So each week she has a new challenge. It could be that the instructional designer that she hired to do a specific task has a car accident and can't come to work, but the project needs to continue. It might be that as they're doing their needs analysis, they realize that they need a different resource that they didn't have, and how can they bring that in? How do they balance that budget and make sure they're staying on budget, hiring all the people? And of course, as with in most instructional design projects, the budget changes and you think you have a really nice pot to do the project and now you don't. So how do you make adjustments to your team? How do you manage your team and get them to the very end of that project? So it's very, very intense. And I put it into summers and they get so it's 12 weeks, and I tell them up front, they really have to be engaged in this course, because if they're not engaged, they're not going to enjoy doing it. I put them on teams, and as a team, they decide how that team is going to respond to the challenge. And it allows for branching because I'm not telling them how to address the challenge. Every team is going to address the challenge for that week in a different way. All I ask is they justify their decisions. And then, so they're constantly having to look at their material that I have in the classroom. And you can see here the challenge, the instructional challenge is what I call it. And when you open this up, it's just a PDF document that I made looking kind of nice and fun for them. And you can see, I give them a little bit of background to connect them to the overall story of in the class. Then I tell them what the challenge is. So you're supposed to turn in an academic outline for this particular case. I want them to be putting together the master plan for whatever training they're going to put together. And then there's all these different resources. I tell them where they can find them. And then here is the checklist for what I'm going to be looking for when I grade it. So each week they can open this up, and this is where they're going to get their instructional challenge. What do you think? So then here is where they turn in. I'm sorry, let me back up. I call it the training manual. Here it is. So the training manual actually gives them how to do. Oh, this is how to do an academic outline. Yeah, they're having to do research for their problem, is what they're doing this week. Then, depending on the level, I give them more or less materials. So this is an undergraduate class. Let me make sure which one I'm in. Yeah, oh, this is the development. Okay, yeah, I'm sorry. So this is first time students often coming into the university. And what I'm trying to do is make them into teachers, even though they have never taught. And this is their first class coming out of high school. So they really don't have any idea how to even do a lesson plan. And yet I'm supposed to get them to design lesson plans and assessments. And one of the things they really struggled with was putting themselves in the teacher role. They see themselves as students, and they still see themselves as students, and they're not exactly totally adopting that persona of being a teacher. So all the way down to when I send them to a product to create their lessons in, they enroll themselves as students instead of teachers. So that's kind of the mentality and the struggle I had in this class. So again, they have their simulation that they can read through. And there's a theme in my simulations. I'll call I call them the Simula School. And Dr. Morgenstein is always the person who's having struggles in the simulation. So I don't have to recreate that throughout then. And notice that in this one, I give them background, I give them the task. I'm even going so far as telling them the steps on how they should do this. And then I'm giving them the rubric. Now for their resources, that in this class, their resources are most often a textbook that they are to refer to. Although one of the things I found is I needed to give them is explicit instructions that connected to the assimilation. So in this particular case, I've actually designed the supplementary material in a tool called RISE. And this can be viewed online or through a mobile device. And this is the way I give them the additional resources they might need in order to address the simulation.
How do you spell the name of that tool?
It's called RISE Articulate.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's part of the storyline Articulate, although RISE is not Articulate. And RISE is it is so cool, by the way. Let me see if I can get you into, I can even build in little assessment tools at the end of the lesson that they have to answer. I can do little pluses and minuses and just
Victor, a question. Do you did you find through your institution that do they give discounts like for yearly plans? Because the problem is, oh my goodness, this is every year you have, it used to be a desktop, now years ago. So do you have a special institutional?
Yeah, so I had to fight my institution a little bit to get this one because they thought they were giving me money to do an online program and I should just get the money from that. And I told them, well, the problem is we have to have the courses go through your approval process first, and that's at least 1.5 years down the road. So I convinced them to go ahead and purchase this for me. Unfortunately, this product is $600 annually.
How much did you get for? I'm sorry.
It's $600 annually.
Well, that's not that bad. I mean, for one license or multiple?
Oh, if you got multiple licenses, you immediately are doing better. I think it was $1,200 for 5. So, yeah, convincing them to go ahead and purchase this.
Right. It's a pickle. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to, was it, I think it was digital citizenship. I did a little embedded simulation, I think, in this one. Let me, why is it not going?
Yeah, it's kind of frustrating if you want your students to actually learn how to use a tool, because you teach instructional design, and I'm thinking, how do you give the tool to them so they learn? Because you want to prepare them to be able to do this.
Right. So I'm teaching the tool this summer. This is computational. I was trying to get digital literacy. Wow. I don't know what's going on there. I did build this does allow you to build in a simulation. And if I have time, I'll show you how you can do that. It actually branches in everything, and you can select little characters. It really makes other types. Yeah, it really makes it super, super easy to actually do a simulation, more along what you were thinking of when you came into this session. And it's displayable on a mobile device, which if your students are like mine, more and more of them are consuming their instructional materials on a mobile device versus logging onto an actual computer. So it's really great the way it'll resize. And I'm interested to see what the students, I put a little survey at the end of this course this year, and hopefully I'll get some feedback on what.
I'm just wishing students are the producers.
Yes.
And I'm looking, when I'm not taking your time, but if other colleagues have had strategies on how to integrate, how to get, the students' licenses for them to use it, and then.
What I've done is I plan my classes so that they can use the 30-day free trial, and Rise and Articulate does allow the 30-day trial. So this is a document that I create that she walks them through step by step. Again, because this is first time in college students, they often need a lot more support and guidance than my graduate students do. But this way they can, again, they know how to create. I don't tell them what to create. And then also embedded in these courses are uplifting messages. I want you to go out and be creative. And I can get some amazing, amazing products by doing that. I would say the products I'm getting from my students have greatly improved over the years. This particular class, now keep in mind, it's often in their first or second year, their second semester at our university. And I ran this section now, I think for two or three semesters. In this semester, I had students entering my class before classes started, and some of them had completed 3 modules before classes even started.
Wow, that's engagement.
Yeah. Now, the other thing I ended up getting with this class is the emails that I've never gotten these types of emails before, where students, they said, I'm glad to be in your class. I'm looking forward to your class. That is not what they said this semester. This semester I got, I am excited to be in your class. And so I was like, where is this coming from? And I finally decided I must be getting a reputation now with this class, because it was repeated over and over. I'm excited, I'm excited, I'm excited. So they must be going out and sharing their experiences in this class with their colleagues. And if you remember what I said about transference, what do you think that transference is going to be if they enjoyed the class so much that they went out and talked about it with their colleagues? It just blew my mind away. I was just humbled by this semester's students' responses. And the other thing I found is that one of my classes this semester with this particular course is a 70-seat course, and every student had engaged in the first week. So to have that large of a class and every student engaging immediately. I also did include, you can see I've included a few other gamification features here. They have this toolbar, so they know, or progress bar, so they know how far they are in the course. And then down here at the bottom, I do have addictive grading as close as you can get in a college course. So I'm trying to get them to earn the points to earn the levels. So in the end, it really came down, and it was a very, very easy course to do. Once I had all of the materials all put together and I had everything lined out, it did take me a little bit of time to do that, but what I like is it was doable. So I want to share with you some of the comments that students were making. So this is the graduate class, and one of the things I liked about my graduate class, that one I was telling you about where we did the program management, until they take that course, they're not exactly sure if they can be good instructional designers. But when they exit that class, one of the things they told me over and over again was, I am confident I can do this. And that's powerful. That is powerful coming from the students who haven't done any instructional design before they come to us. And then they're just learning how to do that and then being able to feel confident enough to go out and do the job interviews. I like this one. I felt it put a positive pressure on me. And they're often in this, again, this is the graduate class. And here they're talking about the confidence in their ability. And they do become, they have to really interact in those groups in order to solve that problem in the master level. Now in the undergraduate, it's individual projects because I have to do statewide and in-Kate assessments, so I can't make them do these in a group, but in the graduate classes I can. And notice I like that they also talked about they developed relevant soft skills to the job. This is, I thought, again, how often do you hear students say, I found the readings to be helpful and relevant? How often do you get that? So it's like, okay, that's exactly what I was going for. I want this learning to be very, very meaningful. And they talked about, and I liked that in this particular example, I pulled it because they were talking about how setting up that problem. And again, the way I do it is, if you think back to that tabletop exercise where you're just handing them out cards, well, instead I'm handing them out a PDF. And it said it filled in the gap. I like that. And here, like I said, the group work in that class is very, very intense. They have to meet in order to solve the problem. They have to have discussions. And the interesting thing is, some people try to take this class individually because they say they can't meet with the group. And I can always see the difference, the discussion, because the discussions they are having in order to solve the problem have to be related to the book. And what's interesting to me is when they do reach out to me, they're trying to clarify what the textbook is saying. And I actually get to interact with them in yet another level, where before I was probably answering questions, it would be like, how do they turn stuff in? So you could see that it was shifting from how do I turn it in to that critical thinking and thinking through what they needed to think about the content.
Victoria, what kind of students are these? Are these students who are on campus, live on campus and all that, or is this an online course?
This particular one is online. They are online graduate students at FAU that you're seeing the comments coming from. It was the undergraduate class where they talk about, being excited. And those, when I get those, I often get things like, I really enjoyed this class. When they turn in the assignments, they actually will tell me it was fun. I like this one. Working in a group can be difficult. Those difficulties illustrate the same difficulties that you would have, and how those, how to accommodate those personalities and work styles. Having those conversations. And then I think that brings back my point about the conversations. I like this one, the real perspective on being an instructional designer, the uncertainties, the collaboration, the deadlines. if any of you worked in instructional design in a business setting or in higher ed, you kind of know exactly what the students are talking about there. So you can see how they can immediately relate. And then I like the instructional material is always insightful. And then notice they use the term enjoyable. Isn't that crazy? Then it helped me to better construct a needs assessment. So one of the things I'm going to share with you my experiences, and this in my undergraduate classes, I'm teaching both 2 undergraduate classes using this method this semester. And they're very used to the teacher standing up there and giving them a lecture, and then they take a test, and that I flip that on them, and it is not a situation they are used to doing. They very definitely struggle with the unstructured problem solving piece of it. And so these 2 weeks, they're learning how to adjust to the instructional style, and they're learning in that I'm getting them started in being creative and being problem solvers. So it's very intense right now with my interaction with the students. And then you see them begin to embrace that creativity that they're allowed to have. They don't have to turn in a specific style or format. They can do it. They can show me what they can do. And it's amazing. They actually get together. They have a back channel. So they actually talk to each other about their projects on the back channel. So they actually begin learning from each other. And then obviously they have a better understanding of their field of study, and also that deeper learning as they apply the concepts that they've just read. So what are your thoughts? And do you see yourself being able to implement something like this in your courses? I'm going to pick on one of the people here. Daniel, you're my teacher assistant this semester. So what have been your observations?
Oh, I love it. It's great. I feel like I'm learning from a master, and it's really neat to see the students. I'm enjoying working with the students, and then at the same time too, Dr. Brown is correct. They are very green. I'm teaching I'm teaching for almost 20 years, and seeing what they turn in, I'm like, huh? So, but but it is what it is. They're coming right from, like you said, right from high school, and but then the simulations, and then go back and rework the project that they were working. It works a lot better.
Mm-hmm. And you can give them such good feedback, right? Yeah, it's because you can see their thought processes, and you can actually see, where they're struggling with. And they love the feedback we give them. So, because we can be very specific in that feedback. Yes.
Victoria, how many students do you have typically in one class?
The undergraduate classes, if I don't have a teacher assistant, there's 35. If I do have a teacher assistant, there's 70. And they have to turn in assignments every week because they're undergraduate students and this is their first time. So if I don't put them in a pattern, they won't make it through the course.
Mm-hmm. And this is instructional design class?
The undergraduate classes are instructional technology for teacher educators. Mm-hmm. So they're very different. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it works. I think what I'm saying, it works for the master level students because of the way I designed those simulations. It really hits home for them. I can really target my audience and really give them a good experience. And then I can still target it for my undergraduate students. So I'm getting that range and getting the same excitement. And that's
right. It depends, I guess, in the depth of and this is the content that you teach, or do you have other classes, different content?
Yes, I teach different content, and every class, I believe, except for one, is now converted to simulations.
That's really neat. I congratulate you, because one of the difficulties that at least I have, not difficulties, I think it's an opportunity challenge, So you teach different contents, different, trying to focus on, dedicate this time into developing, right? Even though
Yes.
Articulate Rise is by all means, I think is one of the best in the markets to streamline the process. But the planning that goes
Yes.
into making, and then the updating it, maintaining it relevant, and that, it's a lot of work. And I wanted to extend my congratulations. Maybe I don't know how long it took you to do this, but I was thinking about, how I would rather have my students create those things and teach and have them learn them. Because it is a lot of work, and on top of that,
yes.
maintaining.
So fortunately, we have field experience classes, and students can take. My first simulation was actually designed by an instructional designer who worked for a company. I believe at the time he was working for one of the big city banks, and he was in a class, and I was like, this stuff. I don't need to teach you this. So we're going to take you to another level.
Oh, that's a good idea.
So then I had him build out my first simulation. And then I've added to it and expanded it through the years.
Right. But the thought process, the whole managerial part of it, it falls on you. And think you've just gave me a great idea.
Yes.
Or not an advanced class, maybe an elective, to have students select their project and have them, because I teach instructional design, instructional technology, instructional media, but they're the introductory courses. You see, I can't have them do stuff.
We actually do it in even our introductory instructional design. They have to do an authentic project. Now, I don't teach those. I teach more of the elective based ones.
That's where you get to have the fun in the electives.
Yeah. So, but I would still do the simulation, because you can talk about all those things that happen.
There's not enough time to teach a Dick and Carry in 16 weeks. On top of that, having them do something realistic. And
it's a challenge.
So it's a challenge. And I think everybody acknowledges Dick and Carry is great, but really it's 16 weeks. So you pick and choose the concepts or a realistic project, and they do make believe small project, whatever they can do in 16 weeks. So but advanced course could be an option.
So what I would do too is I was thinking, gosh, now I can't remember. I wanted to share with you that also these courses adapt very quickly for any individual who has a disability. So I rarely have to do anything to help them, because the material is readable by a screen printer. I do also, in the undergraduate classes, I also have videos that they can watch. So if they're more visual and would like that approach, they can certainly use that. And then I also, I don't have to worry about time, test, and all of that, because it's a product they're producing at the end. So it's up to them.
No, you don't understand. The next class, I'm gonna leave. You know how you leave the learning outcomes, and then inside it'll depend on the groups. Is gonna be what evolves from that class. I don't think I can do that, but we have to put something. But thank you. I think I would contact you if you don't mind.
Yes, no, I don't mind at all, because I'm very excited about this approach. And I feel like if you do the PDF or Rise, Articulate, and to be honest, the Rise didn't take me quite as long, because I already had stuff written out on Word documents and
the production time, that tool, the technology tool, whatever you want, the suite, Articulate. It's super easy. The learning curve is not steep at all. It's not like unlike Captivate. Oh my God, I had a learning curve. I still don't get it.
Right.
But Articulate Rise is so intuitive. The issue is licensing.
I'm going to see if I can get to the author side of things, so you can see what it looks like. I can simulate the telephone.
So are we recording this? Oops, this is being,
Yes.
we're
Yes,
gonna do our conversation.
Yes. Let me share my screen again. So you can see what it looks like on a mobile device. So
Yes, and it displays beautifully in the mobiles.
mhm.
Captivate is trying to go there, but this is more of this authoring tool. That's the name, authoring tool. It's
Right. And it's
leading.
web-based.
Yeah, it's intuitive. I love it.
Mhm. And
Maybe you have to write a grant. How about that?
there you go, right? The grant. See, this one's got the little tabs, and you can select your little tabs. It can play the little movies.
Have you found, Victoria, like if you wanted, well, I don't know if they're taking everybody else's time here. But if as an advice of you that have been, what, you were a department chair or dean?
Once I was an assistant provost for e-learning.
Assistant provost, okay. So the convincing of, and you had a hard time, according to what I heard you, like it was not a hard time, but it was interesting for you to convince. How would you, I mean, showcasing, let's say I want to show this is what you can do. Is there a site that Articulate has or some showcasing all this stuff? Because I know a lot of universities use it but I haven't found like a place where I can showcase, look what you can do with this.
A demo.
Can do.
Demo. Did you look for demos?
Yeah, like demos, but maybe classes like yours, Victoria, but they're not publicly available, and I don't think people just put that up there.
Yeah, and so I think they have some course templates that you can kind of see what's going on there. No, you can't share it out.
Like a full blown, no.
Yeah. But if you're interested, I can share with you the link. Yeah, just send me an email and I'll share you the actual link to it so you can see how it
but yeah, that would be great, because it's you can blah 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 it and say, oh, this is gonna be great, but then you have to justify the manpower, but especially this license that is a yearly license. Now if the license is expired or the renewal, right, every year, that is a standalone product that can still be used, right?
I believe so. Yes. And then even when you do the articulated, the articulated, in my opinion, does the same thing that Animate does, only a little simpler steps. Not quite. It doesn't have all that coding behind it.
Oh, okay.
Which can be very challenging.
So you would have it. Your simulation can be standalone. Was your simulation like a SCORM? Did you put it into Canvas, or is it in some server that is not Canvas?
No, I had to put a link to the live version is how I had to do it.
You couldn't do, it's not a SCORM based?
I don't think so.
I find that out, because I think it's beneficial if students go through Canvas, and in Canvas then it's embedded and it's tied to the grading book. And
yes, there is a way to do that. Well, for me, if I want to make a change, I want to be able to do it really quickly in the online version. And then I had so many Daniel can attest to this, that the assessments in the course definitely test your knowledge. So I don't need to have test scores. I only make them do quizzes off the textbook just to make sure they're reading it, because otherwise, and then I'm actually questioning the value of making them read the textbook now.
Oh no, I can't. That will take me a paradigm shift. Everything is in there. You said, don't make me repeat doing videos. I repeated like multiple user representation and all that stuff. But at least the Dick and Carry book is filled with the new edition is so much better. Yeah,
it's better than it was. The first
enduring that book is out of control. But the new edition,
I've gotten through it.
No, but the new so I have quizzes so they can at least the open book quizzes is okay, but at least know that the chapters there.
Yeah,
And-
he's very dry. He's very
I
boring.
do, I do agree with the rise that Dr. Brown did create. I mean, most of the students really just go use that instead of the book because of the
yeah,
interactiveness.
it's interactive. It's
Yeah.
but I try to make the book interactive by in my Canvas course. I is among us kids. I guess this is being recorded, but the same thing that they can carry are saying in their I put boys and power and animate in PowerPoint. So they read, they watch, they hear. I don't know. And they practice it. At some point, with those multiple means of engaging them with the content, they will get it. But the only way that I see that they will get is by doing it. There's, you can't teach instructional design if they don't do
They
instructional.
do it. Yeah, they have to do it. Yeah.
But it is a challenge in 16 weeks to learn the concepts and implement them in there. So
Right.
I'd like to know how that.
I think that's where some of the gamification elements can come in and be a little more encouraging to them, and seeing that they're making progress. And
But do you make them pick their topic, their
Yes.
instructional project?
Yes, unless there's some special project that we have in mind, and we are thinking that we would like for them to help us design it, we might actually set up the course to design.
I'm
So-
hesitant to have students do stuff for other.
But we wrote a textbook this way, believe it or not. So
You have in your class?
yeah, we used field experience students, and they wrote the first draft, and then I came in behind them, and I just modified what they did. I had to add content, of course, or maybe fix their grammar and things like that. And we just published it. It's digital being connected in a digital literacy in a digitally connected world.
Maybe that's the one I just found online. Yeah. Awesome. But you get to play with that because it's an elective, correct? Or is that your regular class?
That's going to be our intellectual foundation course this fall, or we're going to launch it. We're hoping to launch it in the fall. So it's going to be
Congratulations. You gave me ideas and I will contact you.
Yes, good. I hope we gave you some good ideas too, and Gabriel and Brandy.
Yes, it's
And
great.
it looks like Amir's here too. Yeah, Amir's here. Yeah, okay, good. All right. Go forth and be creative.
Thank you. This is very inspiring.
No, my next step
Thank
is
you,
to use
Victoria.
ChatGPT.
Yeah, and you can tell I'm excited about my courses. They're not boring anymore. They're a little more, I'm proud of them.
Well, congratulations. And it makes a difference, of course, to have a professor who's engaged and excited for the course. I get that too, even though mine are not that sophisticated, but they engage that you like the content that you're teaching.
Yes,
So
yes.
they get that,
Mhm.
whether in the videos or the writing or your feedback with them. So
Right.
good for
Mhm.
you.
Yes. All right. So thank you for
Thank you,
coming.
Victoria.
All
That's
right.
great.
Bye.
Bye.